Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. What we're going to be doing today is this is the third day of our course where I'm going to be starting with meditation like we do each day. Then I'm going to move into a talk on the transforming the three poisons. This is where you kind of broaden your understanding of what the Buddha discovered in the mind and really deepen your understanding. You start to understand why it is that you experience things like anger and sadness and frustration and all these others, and what the broader problem is. Where yesterday we taught the Four Noble Truths, where you kind of get a window into understanding what's going on in the mind. But here you're going to broaden that understanding and really deepen it. We're going to talk more about the solutions of how to fix it. Because what the Buddha did is he figured out how to get to this peaceful, calm, serene, content mind with joy. And as long as you have these pollutions that are in the mind, you're not actually able to experience that permanent mental state. After our mid-morning break, after we're done with this talk, I'm then going to share what's called the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely that are going to produce either wholesome or unwholesome results for you. If you've heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, this isn't actually true. The Buddha never taught that. That sounds like rules and commandments. It sounds like black and white. I'm going to be using the original words of the Buddha to be able to help you understand what he taught on this important topic. And then I'm going to show you how to relate it to day-to-day decisions that you're making on a daily basis. We're going to take a lunch break. And then after our lunch break, we're going to come back and I'm going to teach walking meditation. This is a meditation that's really helpful if you have an overactive mind, if you find you have a lot of repetitive thoughts in your mind, and the last thing you're thinking of doing is sitting down and being still to meditate. You can actually do walking meditation. And I'll show you guys how to do that. And we'll actually do it together. Then we're going to take an evening break. And if you guys would like, there's kind of an added bonus that we're doing today, which is some students requested that we do something called a fireside chat. We got a fireplace right here, so we can do like a fireside chat. And what this is that a bunch of us went on a pilgrimage tour this year where we went to India and Nepal, and we visited all the sites of the Buddha and during his lifetime. And they asked us to do kind of like a talk or have a discussion about what it was for our experience and what did we do and what was it like and all these kinds of things. So I have lots of pictures to share with you guys. So what we're going to probably end up doing is taking a nice little break after class, give you guys a chance to maybe order some dinner or take a walk, whatever it is that you'd like to do. And then around 5 o'clock, we'll get together and I'll share with you guys some information about the Buddhist pilgrimage tour. And if you guys would like to attend that, you're more than welcome to. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I'm going to start with some chanting. If you guys remember that this chanting, it's not a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like this. Today, we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. So there isn't anything mystical or magical in the teachings of the Buddha. There is no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. If you're seeing those things associated with his teachings, those aren't his actual teachings. These are misunderstandings that people are having. So the chanting that we do, you guys are welcome to get a chanting sheet and chant along. It's to help ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where you'll hear me teaching you and guiding you in the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together, everybody here and everyone who's joining online. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start teaching you guys the 3 poisons. So feel free to chant along if you like. Take whatever position is comfortable for you. And I'll be back with some guidance after the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakava Otang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang namami Namo สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสเอมะกะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, breathing in and out, breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. สัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาวาโอนังมหากวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุมุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Good morning to everyone online who's joining as well. Today's the third day of our course where I'm going to help you guys to understand the three poisons, also referred to as the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. This is going to help you to understand why you experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Yesterday, I taught you the Four Noble Truths, which gave you like a little window into that. But now we're going to broaden that understanding and help you to be able to go deeper into it, to be able to really see what's going on in the mind. Because the teachings of the Buddha are guiding you to a point where you're no longer experiencing any of those discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience anger or sadness, frustration, or any of these other feelings. It'll be physically impossible for you to experience this. Oftentimes, people think it's the outside world that's causing these feelings, but it's actually what's going on within your own mind that's causing this. Remember, the teachings of the Buddha are independently verifiable. They're not based on belief. You're not believing what it is that I'm sharing with you or what the Buddha is teaching. You're learning, investigating, and examining those teachings. You're then reflecting on them to verifying whether they're true or false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And this is where you see the real transformation. So I'm going to be describing to you these three poisons, and I'm going to be explaining to you the symptoms that an individual will experience because of having these three poisons. That's an opportunity for you to learn what these are and the symptoms of them. But then in your reflection, you can actually reflect and you can see that your mind has these three poisons. If you're unenlightened, your mind has these in the mind. And you can reflect because the examples that I give you are going to be similar to what it is that you experience in your day-to-day life. I don't know you guys to the level of detail of being able to know every little aspect of what you experience on a day-to-day basis. But because I know what these three poisons are and I can describe them to you and the symptoms of them, you'll be able to see that your mind actually has these in your mind. Then I'm going to focus on explaining to you the solutions of how to fix this. That's the practice. That when you implement the solutions, that's where you can uproot these out of the mind. And that's where you're going to see the improvement, where the condition of your mind in your life is gradually improving. Because as long as these pollutions are in the mind, you're going to be making decisions that are unwise, and it's going to produce unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. But when you uproot these out of your mind, you'll get to a point where you're making wiser and wiser decisions. Not only will you experience the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, but you'll notice that you'll have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because as long as you have these pollutions in the mind, you'll be hindered from having this focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, because when you have these in your mind, you'll tend to have a certain amount of bitterness and hostility in your interactions with other people, and it's going to damage your relationships. But when you eliminate these out of the mind, you can be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful in all situations, where right now you might find that to be difficult. But when you uproot these, you'll notice that that's not the case. And then ultimately, you'll get to a point where all your relationships are harmonious, where you can have loving and warm and gentle relationships with all the people around you. So just like always, I'm going to be teaching you, but then I'm going to be pausing a few times and opening up for questions. And when we get to the question period, whether you're here or you're online, you're welcome to ask questions. If you're here, I would ask that if you could use the microphones, that would be helpful, because the people online will be able to hear you. All you need to do is get a microphone and press the button. And if you hold that up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And then for those of you guys that are online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So first, let me just introduce you to the three poisons, just kind of explaining to you what they are. What they are is they're referred to as the three poisons, the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires. They're also known as defilements or taints, or some people call them pollutions of the mind. This is a high-level description of what is being experienced in the unenlightened mind. And as I describe these to you, you'll be able to see that your mind actually has these. The deepest level of detail that the Buddha describes about these poisons or pollutions, they're referred to as the 10 fetters. There's 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered. But when he talks about them from a high level, he refers to them as the three unwholesome roots, or the three fires, we refer to them that way, or the three poisons. This helps you to understand the decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis and the unwholesome results that you're experiencing. The unwholesome results, we refer to this as karma. You might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit version of this word, where the original teachings of the Buddha in the Pali language, so people who study his teachings will tend to use the word karma. This isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards or who's to blame or who's at fault. It's none of that kind of stuff. There's no being who's overseeing this. It's nothing mystical or magical. What the natural law of karma is cause and effect, or sequence of events. This is action and result. Whenever you make certain decisions, there's going to be certain results that you experience. And depending on how you make those decisions, either wisely or unwisely, you will experience either wholesome karma or wholesome results, or unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. And everything you experience in your day-to-day life is based in decisions that you're making. But typically, what people do is they think that what they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis is either good luck or bad luck, or destiny or fate, or they might think that it's God or some entity called the universe that is controlling what they experience. Or oftentimes people will blame what they experience on other people. But more and more, when you investigate this natural law, you can see that what you experience on a day-to-day basis is coming from decisions that you're making. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what this means is to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws. And the main natural law that you're awakening to or cultivating wisdom about is the natural law of karma, of cause and effect. When you have these pollutions in your mind, you will make unwise decisions, and it will produce unwholesome results for you. And again, what people will typically do with the lack of wisdom of this is they will say that it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate or God or some entity called the universe, or people will blame what they experience on other people. But more and more, you can see that what you're experiencing is the results of your decisions. And I'll just kind of share something with you here to kind of help you maybe peer into this and see this a little bit. Ask yourself these questions to be able to see that what you're experiencing is the results of your decisions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose whether or not you ate breakfast this morning? Who chose the location where you live? Who chose the friends that you spend time with? Who chose the job or occupation that you have? Right? We could go on and on here. You see the theme that everything that I've just mentioned, all these decisions are decisions that you're making. And there's no need to feel guilty or shameful about what you're experiencing. It's not about blame or fault or anything about that. It's just being able to accept responsibility for the decisions that you're making, because then if there's anything that you don't particularly care about that's going on in your life, and you would rather those things not occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. But if it's other people that are causing you to experience certain things in your life, you're stuck. You're locked in because you can't change other people. You can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change God or some entity called the universe. And that's not truly why things are occurring in the world. There's no such thing as good luck or bad luck. It's decisions that we make that leads to any particular result. And this is very empowering because, again, if there's something in our life that is occurring that we would rather not occur, all we need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and we will experience different results. So, for example, if I'm walking down the beach and there's wind blowing in my face and I'm kicking up the sand, and now the sand is blowing in my face and I'm like, wow, this is good luck or bad luck, or this is my destiny, this is my fate, or this is God or some entity called the universe, or this is other people that are doing this to me. Well, I'm just going to keep walking down the beach, kicking up the sand, and I keep experiencing the same results over and over and over again. But when I understand that it's my decisions that are leading to this, all I need to do is make different decisions and I will experience different results. And that's the power of understanding something like the natural law of karma. So, excuse me, I'm a little bit sick here still. with these poisons in the mind, you will make unwise decisions and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So what our talk is about today is to be able to help you understand what these pollutions are so that you can verify that you have these in your mind. But then more specifically, it's to give you the solutions of how to fix this. Because when you uproot these out of the mind, that's where you're going to be seeing more and more of the peace and more of the joy of the enlightened mental state. So as I mentioned, the deepest level of detail is called the 10 fetters. This explains to you, these pollutions explain to you the problems of what you experience on a day-to-day basis and the solutions of how to actually fix them. You can uproot this out of the mind. We call them the fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were someone who they were trying to keep confined to a certain area, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and they would keep you out in the field. That's what a fetter is, a shackle and a chain and a ball. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions in the mind, he refers to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped or confined in experiencing this anger and sadness over and over and over again. But just like a prisoner, when you release the shackle off the ankle, they're now free, they're liberated. It's the same thing about your mind, that when you release these pollutions out of the mind, your mind's now free, it's liberated. Where when you're angry and sad and feeling guilt and shame and fear, your mind's all bound up. It's not free. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get free from all of this. So ultimately, you would need to know the 10 fetters, but the Buddha teaches in these layers, where the Four Noble Truths is like the first layer. That's what we talked about yesterday. The 3 poisons or 3 unwholesome roots, this is like the second layer. And then the deepest level of detail is the 10 fetters. And I introduced you to this on Friday, if you were here on Friday. So there's not only these 3 pollutions or these 3 unwholesome roots or 3 fires, but there's also 3 wholesome roots as well. These are the antidotes or the solutions or the remedies. So that's what we're going to be focused on as well. And I'm going to be teaching you that. So first, just to kind of talk about all 3 of these at a high level, then I'm going to go into them in more detail and give you the solutions. Okay, so we call these craving, anger, and ignorance, or you might hear some people refer to it as greed, hatred, and delusion, or some people might say desire, ill will, and confusion. Different teachers use different words to describe these. So I'm going to help you to understand what these are. So craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations. This is the mind longing, yearning, and craving for things to be a certain way. The mind's craving permanence, but it lives in an impermanent world. Everything around you is impermanent, but the mind craves for things to be permanent. And if the mind gets what it wants and what it expects, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants and what it expects, it experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. And then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings like shyness or uncomfortableness or dissatisfaction. This is all coming from craving, desire, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning, chasing after the objects of its affection, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. It's like the mind has an unquenchable thirst. It thinks that if I can just get that thing, everything will be perfect. So the mind kind of sits back and it's like, I feel uncomfortable here. What can I do to make this better? Let me get some more money. That'll fix everything. Let me get some more money. So then the mind will chase after money for a while. And then you'll get your money and maybe you're really happy, but that eventually will fade away. Or you don't get your money and you're angry and frustrated, right? So then your mind's like, what do I need to feel better here? A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get one of those, right? And now you might chase after a new boyfriend or girlfriend for a while. And now you'll get one of those and you'll be happy at first, but then that'll fade away too. And you'll start being angry and frustrated with your boyfriend or girlfriend again, right? And then the mind's like, what do I need to be happy? What do I need to do? I know what I'll do. Let me go to a Buddhist class in California. Let me go to one of those. That Buddhist class will fix everything. Let me go there, right? So now maybe you want to hurry up and get here, perhaps. I don't know. Everybody's a little bit different. They'll chase and chase and chase. It might be jewelry or clothes or shoes or some vacation. It's not the object itself that is the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way the mind's longing, yearning for it, wanting this new thing, thinking the next new thing is going to provide lasting satisfaction. The mind's trying to find satisfaction externally. And if it gets what it wants, again, it gets pleasant feelings. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. And when those painful feelings are arising, there starts to be anger and frustration. And that's the second one. The mind firmly believes that this anger is being caused by something external. So what the mind does is it has this bitterness and hostility that comes into the mind. And the mind, thinking that the problem is external, it will tend to become unskillful and it will tend to push people away, or it'll push a situation away. You might have pushed away people in your life, like friends or family, thinking that they were the ones causing you to be angry, and you felt like if you pushed them out of your life, that's going to solve your problem. But you can see that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get annoyed. If they were the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful from that point forward. But when you push them out of your life, you still get angry, you still get frustrated. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand that it's your craving that's causing this anger is that you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. It's like, "Arr." They're trying to fear this being into doing things your way, right? That the mind thinks, if I can just get this person to do things my way, arr, you might be angry and bitter and harsh with your speech. And then the third thing that you might do is you might put your expectations on people, where you're trying to pressure them into doing things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled, because it's having a certain experience and this person's doing something you don't want them to do. And you think if you just push them away, then now you'll get what you want. Or if you're bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, you'll fear them into doing things your way. Or by putting your expectations on them, you'll pressure them to do things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. It's craving permanence. The mind wants everybody to do it this way. And if people do it this way, you're happy. But if they don't do it that way, you get angry or frustrated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. So this anger, this bitterness and hostility is coming from the craving, but the mind doesn't understand that. That's where the third one comes in. People refer to this as ignorance, or I tend to use the unknowing of true reality, or some people call it confusion or delusion or misunderstanding, because we're translating the words of the Buddha into English, and the Buddha wouldn't have referred to someone as ignorant, right? That's a derogatory way to refer to somebody. So a better way to think about this is the unknowing of true reality, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't realize that its own mind is causing these feelings. The unenlightened mind, because of its lack of wisdom, its confusion, it will firmly believe that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated. But you need to be able to peer through that and see the truth that it's the mind craving permanence. And I'll give you some examples of this when we get to the next part. So while we call this craving, anger, and ignorance, and these are the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues. If it wasn't because of this ignorance, craving and anger would have been eliminated. And this is why everything in the teachings of the Buddha is about the cultivation of wisdom. There's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer in his teachings. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's about cultivating wisdom. There's no belief in his teachings. You need to be able to peer into his teachings and independently verify whether they're true or false, because now this new wisdom is going to allow you to make wiser and wiser decisions in your day-to-day life. And with this wisdom, you'll learn how to clean out the craving and anger. Just like when we were children and we grew up and we learned how to clean this body and we realized how wise that was. Of course, at first we didn't want to do it. We were just too busy playing. But eventually we got to the point where we were like, wow, this feels really good. I like taking a shower. I'm going to do this every day, right? Well, if you didn't learn how to clean your mind growing up as a child, and you've been walking around with a dirty mind, so to speak, that's why you experience stress and anxiety. Right? If you walked around with a dirty body for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, or a few years, you'd be pretty uncomfortable. Well, if you haven't been cleaning your mind, then that means you've been walking around with these pollutions in the mind. And now that's why you're experiencing the stress and the anxiety and all these other difficulties and struggles on a day-to-day basis where there's guilt, shame, or fear, or anger in your mind, because you've got these pollutions in there that are causing this to occur. So the Buddha is teaching you how to purify your mind and get these out of your mind so that now your mind can experience the peace and the joy of the enlightened mental state. And it starts with understanding what these are. So now I'm going to go into each one of them in detail, and then I'm going to focus on the solutions, and I'll open up the questions to see what you guys like to ask. Okay. So this craving, or some people call it greed or desire, or this wanting, expectations, attachment. This is the mind longing, yearning. It's craving permanence. It has an unquenchable thirst. It thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide lasting satisfaction. The mind holds on, and it thinks if I can just get what I want, everything will be perfect. And it's craving this permanence. So think back to when we were a child. We went to mom and dad and we were like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they were like, sure, you can have chocolate and ice cream. Here you go. And we're like, thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever, right? And we got our chocolate and ice cream. And then we went to them the second day. And we were like, Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they're like, sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream. And we're like, thank you so much. You're so great. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever. And then the third day we go and we say, Mom and Dad, can I have chocolate and ice cream? And they say, no, you can't have chocolate and ice cream. You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever, right? This is coming from our own mind, but we firmly believe that it's Mom and Dad that's causing this. This is our mind craving permanence. We wanted that chocolate and ice cream every single day. And if we could get it 2 or 3 or 4 times a day, oh my gosh, that was like the best day ever, right? But our mind is wanting this permanence while we live in an impermanent world. Chocolate and ice cream is not permanent. Or think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you were together with. When you guys first got together, you were really happy and excited about that. But then when you guys broke up, you were angry or sad or frustrated. This is the mind holding on and craving permanence. This person is not permanent in your life. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, you guys are going to die at some point. The relationship is over. It is impermanent, but the mind craves permanence. When people are grieving a relationship or grieving a death, they think it's because of love It's not your love that's causing that. It's the mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this person to be in your life permanently, when in reality, they are impermanent. Or say you have a brand new car and you park this car at a store and you go inside and you come out and there's a scratch on your car. If you get frustrated and angry, it's not the scratch that's causing it. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence, that it wants this car to be permanently beautiful, where it's not possible. The paint's going to fade, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn, the tires are going to need to be changed, but the mind craves permanence. So we could go on and on and on. I can give you so many examples, but you're going to need to see this in your own life in order to be able to see the truth. You can't believe what it is that I'm sharing. So this is where I invite you to take a moment to look at your own life. Look at a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. Look at that with these fresh eyes, because at that time you might have been trying to blame somebody else. But what was it that your mind wanted? What did you expect? What were you craving and longing, yearning for? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And if you can't see this, let me know, because I'll help you. There's been plenty of students over the years that have needed help, and I will help you. Okay? So just one more example to help you guys see this is, let's just say you go to the airport. You're so excited to go on some trip or some holiday, and you just can't wait to go to Mexico, or you just can't wait to go to Greece or France or Spain or some other place. And you're so excited, and you show up and your flight's delayed, and now you're frustrated and angry. It's not the airline company that's causing that. It's the mind craving permanence. I want every airplane to take off on time, right? Especially the ones I'm on. Right? That's the way the mind thinks. Everyone else's plane can be late. I don't mind that, but my planes need to be on time, right? Whereas if it's late and it's delayed, you're sitting in the waiting area for 3 hours, you might be frustrated or angry sitting there. That's the mind craving permanence, where you're going to experience impermanence. There's going to be weather issues, maintenance issues, crew issues. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. So you need to be able to see how every single time you've ever been frustrated or angry or irritated or any other discontent feeling, it's all coming from your own mind. We believe that it's other people in the unenlightened state because of our lack of wisdom. But you need to be able to peer into this and see for yourself. Because I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag out arguments where you've been trying to convince people to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry and frustrated. It's not other people that are causing you to be angry. It's not the outside world. It's what's going on in the inner world. If it was the outside world, the Buddha would have never been able to get to enlightenment. He would have had to go around and change everybody else in the world to do things his way. He didn't give you a bunch of rules and commandments, and that if everybody follows these rules, then the world will become a peaceful place. Instead, he trained his own mind. And by training his own mind, that's where he got to peace and joy. And you need to understand that the world is impermanent, but yet everybody's that's unenlightened, their mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. So when you start to see that it's your own cravings, desires, attachments that's producing these feelings, and the mind's holding on, then you start to understand that there's a solution to this. Because if it's your mind that's causing these feelings, that means you can eliminate it. Whereas if it's other people that are causing this, you can't do anything about that. You can't fix other people. So the beauty in this is that you can fix it. That's what the Buddha figured out how to do. So breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity are really targeting craving, desire, attachment. Now, yesterday I taught the Eightfold Path, and some of you guys were here. That's the core central teaching of the Buddha, that you need to learn that inside and out, backwards and forwards. That's what's going to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, the mind longing, yearning, and chasing after things. But what's really targeting it, in addition to all those other factors that are in the Eightfold Path, is the breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. The breathing mindfulness meditation is the one we just did this morning, where you're focused on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's actually to notice them sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier, because your mind doesn't know how to let go. That's what the Buddha is teaching you how to do, is to let go. So if your mind moves off your breath 10, 20, 50 different times during your meditation, and you have to let go, this is very healthy for your mind. You're building this internal mechanism in your mind to be able to let go. Because now when you go into the airport and you're informed that your airplane is going to be delayed and you're noticing the anger starting to rise up, you can let go. You can cut that off and be like, no, 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 no. I'm not going to let the mind experience that anger. There's no benefit in having that anger. Let me just be polite and kind and friendly with this person behind the counter, and let me find out some details so I'll know what's going on here, right? Because if you allow the mind to experience the anger, now you got to get it out, and it's a lot harder once it's in the mind. So this breathing mindfulness meditation is like exercising your mind. Each day, you're taking your mind to the gym and you're exercising it, building up these wholesome qualities so that in your day-to-day life, you can practice mindfulness and concentration, and you can practice cutting off and letting go. You're driving down the road, somebody cuts you off in traffic, and you notice the anger starting to arise. Cut that off. That's the mind craving permanence. This is my lane. You can't get into my lane. This is mine. It's all mine. Mine, 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 mine. That's what the unenlightened mind's going to do with craving, desire, attachment. It's all mine, 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 mine. So you're using breathing mindfulness meditation to learn how to cut off and let go, but that's also where the generosity comes in. Because the mind with the craving, desire, attachment can be somewhat selfish. It will hold on to things. Mine, 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 mine. My phone, my money, my computer, my food, my clothes, my jewelry. Everything's mine, 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 mine. And the mind won't be interested to share. We're taught to share as children, typically. We're taught to share our toys, but we're not explained why, right? And then as we get older, we start working and making money for ourselves, we tend to be somewhat selfish with what we have. But what the Buddha is teaching you to do is to live open-handedly. Be joyful in giving and sharing with other people. You can share your time, effort, energy, and resources with other people without any expectation of anything in return. You can do simple things, like say you're walking into a store and you notice there's someone behind you. You could easily hold the door for the people behind you and let them go in too. But remember, generosity is to practice giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door with an expectation that they will say thank you, and they don't say thank you when they walk through the door, you'll get frustrated and angry because your mind's craving permanence. I want everybody who walks through this door to say thank you. You're not practicing pure generosity at that point. You still have an expectation. You want something from this person, because some people are going to say thank you when they walk through the door. And maybe that's what you do. But there's some people who aren't going to say thank you. That's the universal truth of impermanence, that we live in an impermanent world. Some people are going to be so caught up into what it is that they're going to get out of this store that they're thinking about those things. They don't even see you standing there. Or maybe they see you standing there. They look you right in the eyes. They might even say good morning and good evening, but they just don't say thank you, right? And they just walk through the door, right? So when you're practicing generosity, you need to practice sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return, right? Not even a thank you. That you're doing it only for one reason, which is to enhance the quality of your mind. Because by practicing generosity, it's training your mind to let go. So you can practice generosity with any number of things. And I suggest you make it easy for yourself, right? Holding the door when you go into a store, really easy. You're going to maybe into 7-Eleven to buy yourself a chocolate bar, buy one or two more so that you can give them away to somebody else. It only takes an extra couple seconds to pick up those extra chocolate bars. You might not even know who you're going to give it away to at the time, but you're just going to pick them up so that during your day, you can give out a chocolate bar to somebody. Or say you're going to the market and you're buying yourself some oranges. Maybe your neighbor likes bananas. You toss some bananas into the bag, and then you can get some bananas and you can bring them home and give them to your neighbor. So you can integrate generosity into your life really easily this way. If there's certain things that you're noticing that you're discontent about, it would be wise for you to practice generosity related to those things. So let's just say that when you take your clothing out of the washing machine, they're ripped and torn, and you notice that you get upset and angry when you see your clothing is ripped and torn. You're attached to your clothing. You want your clothing to be permanent. And now when you see it's ripped and torn, you get upset or angry or frustrated. You would be wise to start giving away some of your clothing, maybe to a thrift store or Salvation Army or something like this. Or say when your bank account balance is up here, you get really happy and excited, but when it goes down here, you get frustrated and angry. You're attached to your money. You're going to need to start sharing your money, giving it away to charity in some situations. But you need to do this in the middle way. If you do this excessively, you're not going to have the resources that you need in order to sustain your life. But if you're never sharing, you're not going to be able to get to enlightenment. You're not going to be able to train your mind to let go. Your mind's going to be quite selfish. Let's just say you have some jewelry. And every time you misplace your jewelry, you're like hectic. You're like, oh my gosh, where are my earrings? Where's my watch? Where's my necklace? Oh my gosh. And you see your mind's all shaken up. That's because you're attached to your jewelry. You would be wise to share this with other people. If you can give it away, if it's not too expensive, great. But if it's kind of expensive and it's not something that you're interested in giving away long term, one of the things that you can do is you can find someone you trust, like a friend or family member, and say, hey, can you hold on to this for me for a little while? I'm just going to get this out of my house for a little while. I'd like to kind of like let somebody else hold on to this for a little while. Would you mind holding on to this? And now for a few months or something like that, you can let somebody else have it at their house. And now your mind is distancing yourself from this particular object, and it trains your mind to let go. So generosity is training your mind to let go. And the Buddha taught this as a daily practice that, excuse me, just like meditation, that he teaches you to meditate daily to be able to exercise your mind, he teaches you the same thing with generosity, to practice it daily. And what you're going to notice is the frequency of meditation and generosity is more important than the amount. So if it was a matter of one meditation for 30 minutes or two for 15, you're going to notice more benefit with the 2 for 15. If it's a matter of giving $1,000 a year to an orphanage or $2 a day, you're going to actually notice more benefit with the $2 a day, because each day you're having to let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. Whereas if you only have to let go once a year, it doesn't have as much impact to your mind. So if you guys ever come to Thailand, where I live, they actually have donation boxes everywhere. If you go into the department store, if you go into a restaurant, if you go to a temple, if you go to any number of places, there's donation boxes everywhere. So what people will usually do is they'll drop what's called 10 baht, in these donation boxes. This is the equivalent of about 30 cents, right? So say you're planning to give away $3 a day or $5 a day, and that's what you can afford to give away. You would like to give $1 to this donation box, $1 to this donation box, $1 to that donation box. So all throughout your day, you're having to let go more frequently, right? Or say you wake up in the morning and you see your neighbor's trash is blown all over their yard, right? Maybe they're on vacation. They don't even know that this has happened. Well, if you have some time, maybe you go pick up their trash, put it away. You don't even have to tell them, because you're not wanting anything from them. You're not expecting anything. You're just practicing generosity, sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return. And these are the two things that are really targeting your cravings, where it trains your mind to let go. And that's the underlying cause of discontentedness. That's what's going to help you eliminate your anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings. But there's other things besides these two teachings of meditation and generosity that you need in order to fully train your mind. But this is what's really targeting it. So do you guys have any questions on this first one, the craving, desire, attachment, or the solutions? Were you guys able to verify that your mind has this? Yeah, you can see it? Okay. Robert, you have a question?
Donation or like a foundation, does that sort of count, or do you need to actively do it yourself?
You would like to be conscious about your giving. So if you've consciously set up a monthly donation and then it probably emails you every time it does it, it's coming to your mind like, oh yeah, I've given away. So this can make it convenient for you to be able to give. So yeah, that's fine. As long as you're conscious about it, you've made the decision to do it. And now each month you're seeing the email and it's reminding you that you've done this. Okay, so no more questions. Let me see online here. Hello to everyone online. Okay, I don't see any questions online. Okay, so now let's go to anger, the next one. Because when this craving, desire, attachment is in the mind, it's only a matter of time before it gets triggered. Like right now, you're just listening to me. You might be somewhat calm. You might be somewhat peaceful, right? But if something gets triggered in your mind, this anger is going to come up. And when that anger is coming up, that's where the bitterness, the harshness, and hostility is coming, right? It's coming from the craving, desire, attachment, because the mind can only be happy when it's getting what it wants. It craves this permanence. But if somebody does something that's opposite of what your mind is craving, you'll have this anger and frustration that'll come up in your mind. And this is where people will tend to push away the individual or the situation, or you'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, or you'll put your expectations on people and try to pressure them. People might be doing this to you too, where people are pushing you away. They're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting their expectations on you. This is coming from their mind. It's not coming from your mind. What's happening is their craving, desire, attachment is getting triggered, that they wanted something and they didn't get what they wanted or expected. And now it triggered this hostility and bitterness to come into their mind. And that's where we become unskillful in the unenlightened state, and you damage your relationships. And the mind's doing this because it firmly believes that the problem is external. It firmly believes that other people are causing you to experience these feelings. But it's impossible for someone to insert a feeling into your mind. It's physically impossible, right? So when this bitterness and harshness and hostility is coming up in the mind, you need to be able to get rid of it, and you need to transform it. So the Buddha gives you tools like loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life in order to be able to transform this. So loving kindness meditation is a meditation I'm going to teach next weekend as part of the Harmony and Relationships course that I'm teaching Friday through Monday. And this particular meditation is different than what we just did this morning, where you're essentially rewiring your mind. Right now, if people do things your way, you might say you like them, right? But if people don't do things your way, you might have dislike in your mind towards them. That dislike is coming from your own mind. But oftentimes people think it's coming from the other person. You think that they're causing you to dislike them, where in reality, it's your craving for permanence. If people do it this way, I like them. But if they do it this way, I don't like those people. So you're actually commenting about your own mind. When you say, I don't like those people, that's actually commenting of your own mind. There are certain things that you don't like about them. You don't like about the way they talk, the way they look, their hairstyle. You don't like their job. You don't like the way they interact with other people. There's something they're doing that is opposite of what you want or what you expect. And now, because they're doing things opposite of what your mind's craving, you will dislike them. Where what you need to be able to get to is where you get to the point where you disassociate or separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves. That you can love the person while disagreeing with their choices and decisions. Because there's only one person in this entire world that does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself, right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, there's only one person in the world that you could ever love. And you might actually have trouble doing that from time to time, right? Because you put expectations on yourself, right? So you would like to get to the point where you disconnect and understand that you can disagree with people's choices and decisions with the person themselves. Because if you spend enough time with somebody, it's only a matter of time before you see things that they do differently than you. It's only a matter of time. That's why at the beginning of the relationship, everything's going so well, right? Because you don't really have very many expectations and you don't know this person very well. But after you spend several months with this person, all of a sudden you start seeing all these things like, oh my gosh, they do things so differently than me, right? And now you're upset and angry and you got to break up. You can't be in this relationship. But that's not the way that you're going to get to peace and joy. You would like to be able to be harmonious with all beings, understanding that they're going to make choices and decisions differently than you sometimes. And that's okay. That's impermanence, right? So we can separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where we can love the person, meaning we have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. and we can disagree with their choices and decisions. You know, I grew up with a lot of resentment and hostility towards my mom, and I had a lot of expectations for her. In fact, usually when I talk about this topic, I usually take a poll. I've never had anybody raise their hands here, but I'm going to take a poll and see. Maybe America is a little bit different than Thailand. Is there anybody here that agreed 100% with every decision their parents ever made? Or anybody at all? Nobody? I've never seen anybody raise their hand, right? So you can see even the people who we're in this relationship with, like our parents, we're not going to agree with what they do 100%. So you might have been like me, that I grew up with a lot of expectations from my parents. I had a lot of bitterness and hostility towards my mom. And when me and my mom came together, it was only a matter of time before fireworks went off, right? Because that's the way we were. She'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room, and I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around the room. And next thing you know, there's all this anger running around the room, right? Well, when I started practicing the teachings of the Buddha, where I was doing loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in my intention, speech, and actions, I started doing things differently. That when mom picked up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room, I just watch it roll to the corner and lose its energy. And that was different for mom. She wasn't used to that. She was used to me being bitter and harsh and hostile right back to her. And she started realizing that it was her mind that was angry and frustrated. Her son had eliminated that. So in the past, we'd be talking on the phone and she'd be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and I'd be bitter and harsh and hostile right back. But then when I started training my mind, she'd be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and I'd say things like, Mom, I love you so much. I'm sorry for what I did in the past. I know that I used to be really angry with you, but my relationship with you is very important. And I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said. I love you, Mom. We'll take care. Bye-bye. And then she'd be like, she was like really surprised. Like she was used to me being angry and bitter and hostile. Maybe I'd go away for a few months and I wouldn't talk to her. And then we'd be talking again for a few months. And then at some point she'd be bitter and harsh with me. And I'd say, Mom, I love you so much. Our relationship's a real priority to me. I would like to see us get to a point where we have nothing but love and kindness for each other. I'm going to get off the phone. We'll talk another time, Mom. I love you so much. So instead of putting out bitterness and hostility, which was just coming back to me over and over and over again, when this bitterness and hostility was coming to me, I put out loving kindness. And that's what extinguished it. By the time Mom died in 2017, we had about a 10-year run where there was no anger and bitterness and hostility between us. It might have even been longer than that, where things were completely peaceful and joyful in our relationship. But I would have never gotten to that if I still had anger in my mind. Because what we tend to do when we have problems in our relationships is we think the way to solve it is to fix the other person. We're constantly trying to fix the other person. That's what I was trying to do for a long time. I was trying to fix Mom, right? But that doesn't work. What you've got to do is you got to fix your own mind. You've got to eliminate your anger. And now when you spend time with this person, you can be loving and kind with them. And this is what's going to transform your relationships. Because when they're bitter and harsh and hostile, you're not going to eliminate the hostility and anger by putting out more anger and hostility. When they're coming at you with anger and hostility, you need to practice loving kindness, having a genuine interest in seeing them be well. This loving kindness meditation is going to essentially rewire your mind so that you can be more loving and kind. It's going to be gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. But then you're going to need to go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions and be loving and kind. You can't meditate your way to the elimination of anger. It's not possible. This is where people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. It's not actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that it took for him to get to enlightenment. So you're going to need meditation, but you're going to need to also go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. Even though you can't do this, let's just say you could meditate for 23 hours a day. If you went out into the world for an hour and you were bitter and harsh and hostile with people around you, you're not anywhere close to enlightenment, right? So you're going to need to practice through your intention, speech, and actions, being loving and kind. So essentially the way this works is like in the old days, before you know these teachings, there's this bitterness and harshness and hostility coming at you. And you firmly believe that it's the other person who's causing this anger and frustration within your own mind. And you might go down this well-worn path of anger and bitterness. You've got the bushes pushed back. You've got the grass worn out. You've got this well-worn trail of anger and hostility. And you know where this leads to? It leads to broken relationships. That's where it leads, right? But now when you start understanding these teachings and you've got this hostility and bitterness that's coming up in your mind, and it's maybe even coming from the other person too, that they're being bitter and harsh and hostile, you know the last thing you're interested in doing is going down this path of anger because it doesn't produce any beneficial results. Instead, you got to get out your machete and you got to forge this new path and break through these stickers and branches and create this new path of loving kindness, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. And now you go down this path many, 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 many times. And this becomes the well-worn path. And this one grows back over, that all the bushes and the stickers and all that stuff comes back. And now you can't go down that path anymore. And you just keep going down this path of loving kindness, genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards others. And this becomes the well-worn path. And your mind will get to the point where it's physically impossible for you to experience anger because you've essentially rewired your mind, and it always goes down in this path of loving kindness. So it's this meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life that's going to do this for you. So I'm going to teach this next week, but if you're not here, it's okay because I've taught it many times. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on our podcast. It's in the books that I share. Everything's available at no cost. You can get access to this and learn how to do this. So do you guys have any questions on transforming the anger with loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in day-to-day life? Yes, ma'am. If you guys could hand the microphone back. Sure. What you need to be able to do is get rid of something that's called personal existence view. This is the very first pollution that the Buddha discovered, which is part of the 10 fetters, where the mind thinks that there is a me here, right? So the mind, what it's going to do is it's going to cling to this body, this self-image, and it's going to cling to your mind, and it's going to think that that they are being disrespectful to me. Right? That me, they're stepping on me. But what you need to be able to understand is that there's no you here. There is a body, there is a mind, and these have come together for this existence, but this isn't who you are as a person. This person who's choosing to be disrespectful or unkind in their speech, that's just sound. It's just sound that's going into the ear, and now you're seeing that as disagreeable to you. And the mind's craving permanence. I want everybody to talk to me in this way. And now when they talk to you this way, you're happy. But when they don't talk to you that way, you'll be angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And you need to understand impermanence, that some people are going to talk to you polite, kind, friendly, respectful, and some people are going to talk to you unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful. And now you get to make choices of who you spend time with, right? And now if this person's being bitter and harsh and hostile to you, you need to look at the situation and figure out what would be wise for you. Because I suspect at this point in time, you're probably not 100% polite, kind, friendly, respectful in all situations in your life, right? But this is the interesting thing about the unenlightened mind is it expects other people to do it. Even though you're not doing it, the mind expects other people to do it. So you've got to look at this situation. If this is like a brand new friend who you just met and they're already being impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful, probably best to move on from that relationship. It's really early in the relationship and they're already doing that kind of stuff. But if you've been friends with this person for many years or something like that, and this is kind of like a every once in a while situation, just overlook it and just understand that, hey, one of their cravings got triggered and now you can just not respond to it and just choose to walk away. But what the mind's going to want to do is it's going to want to stand there and fight. It's going to say, who do you think you are talking to me like that? Don't you know who I am? This is your mind's own ego. Your mind's ego thinking, I am somebody and who are you to talk to me like this? So instead of looking at it as they're stepping on you or they're somehow, doing something to you, understand that these are just sounds, just like the wind blows and the trees rattle and birds chirp. This is just somebody saying some kind of sounds, and you don't have to absorb that as they're being disrespectful to you. They're just choosing to speak in a certain way, and this is impermanence. And you can get to your mind to the point where you don't crave permanence, and now you can just choose to walk away from the situation. So I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but at one point, me and my wife used to argue all the time because this is how I grew up. I grew up that that's the way that you interact in relationships. But then when I learned this better way of life that the Buddha taught, I understood it's very unwise to do these kinds of things. So at one point, my wife was still arguing and being bitter and harsh and hostile with me, but I had already transformed my mind, so I wasn't doing that. So I would just walk away. Whenever she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile, I would just walk away. Where before knowing these teachings, I would stand there and argue, right? But it never ended because she would argue, I would argue. It was just like that rubber ball bouncing around in the room. But when she would get bitter and harsh and hostile with me, I just walk away. And what she learned is if I'm interested in talking to my husband, I'm going to need to be calm. So I kind of taught her without teaching her. It was like indirect teaching, right? Because I didn't give her unsolicited guidance. I just indirectly taught her by choosing to walk away. And over a 1.5 year period, she finally realized over time that, hey, I don't need to be bitter and harsh and hostile with my husband. If I'm interested in talking with him, I need to be calm. And now it's been probably 6 years that we haven't had a rough word between the two of us. We're just always polite and respectful with each other. And there was other things besides this. It's not just walking away that produces this kind of result, but that's what you've got to get used to. That when someone's bitter, harsh, and hostile, you just walk away. It's not the proper time to talk. You need to protect your mind. The Buddha calls this guarding your doorways to discontentedness. That your doorways are your eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. This is where you're experiencing contact. And when you experience contact, your mind's going to see it as either agreeable or disagreeable. And when you have this disagreeable contact coming at you, you got to protect your doorways and you got to walk away. But again, your ego is not going to want you to do that. And that's where you've got to fight with your own ego and just understand that it's wise to walk away. That if you're bitter, harsh, and hostile to this person, or you try to put your expectations on them and control them, it's not going to produce beneficial results. So just walk away. Let them see that what their conduct produced, which is people don't want to spend time with them when they're bitter, harsh, and hostile. And then slowly over time, this person, if they choose, will see that their mind is doing this, and they might choose to be calm and gentle like my mom did, like my wife did, and things like this. But you need to have the strength within your own mind to walk away because your mind won't want you to do that. And that's where the meditations come in. It provides you the ability to do that. Mm-hmm. All right. No other questions? Okay. Oh, there's something coming in online. Let me see. Okay, so the person online is asking, is greed, anger, and ignorance, or craving, anger, and ignorance, are they real things or is it just conceptual? It's real, right? It's in your own mind. You need to be able to understand that this craving is something tangible that you can see in your own day-to-day life. The anger, the hatred, it's something tangible that you can see. And then ultimately the ignorance, which is what we're about to start talking about now, it's something tangible. You can actually see it. And when those things are uprooted and eliminated out of your mind, you can see that too, because you'll be in certain situations where you used to get angry and frustrated. And when you eliminate those cravings that are producing that anger and hostility, you'll see that your mind's quite peaceful and joyful. So you can see the results of what these produce when they're in your mind, and you can see the results when you uproot them and get them out of your mind. So it's actually real tangible things. They're not actually just conceptual. It's to be able to help you see what's truly going on in your mind. Essentially what the Buddha did is he took this human psychology and he boiled it down to a common understanding that the average person could understand. And now you can implement that in your day-to-day life. by understanding this being who you are. You know, I have a water pitcher on my desk at home where I use this in order to be able to drink water throughout the day as I'm working at my desk. And I suspect that that water pitcher probably came with an instruction manual, right? Probably pretty much everything that we have nowadays, this microphone, probably that plant, that pot probably came with an instruction manual. That projector came with an instruction manual. The camera came with an instruction manual. You know, everything comes with an instruction manual these days, but nobody gave you an instruction manual to this being who you are, right? Nobody did that, but that's what the Buddha is doing. He's giving you an instruction manual and saying, this is how this being operates. And he's explaining to you craving, anger, and ignorance because this is how your mind operates. He explains things like the 6 sense bases, like I just mentioned about the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and the mind, because this is how this being operates. You experience contact through these doorways, and now it's going to trigger to be either agreeable or disagreeable in your mind, and you're going to have a feeling or emotion based on that. So he's explaining to you what this being experiences in terms of this unenlightened being, and then this instruction manual is teaching you how to get to this enlightened mental state, that when you evolve to become a better and better human being, you can experience this enlightened mental state. So that's one of the ways that I think about the teachings of the Buddha. It's like an instruction manual of how to operate this being who you are, because nobody gave us that growing up as a child, but the Buddha has it for you. Okay. And that actually leads into this next one really well, because what we do in the unenlightened state when we have this craving and anger is we firmly believe that it's other people that are causing these discontent feelings. And the reason why is because of this third pollution, this third poison, this third unwholesome root, that there's this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom, this confusion, this ignorance in the mind, this delusion, this misunderstanding or misperception that the mind has, that it truly doesn't understand what it doesn't understand, because we don't have this instruction manual that I'm describing to you. We didn't get that when we were born. So therefore we grow up with this lack of wisdom, firmly believing it's the outside world that's causing these feelings. But what you're doing on the path to enlightenment, when you understand that your mind has this lack of wisdom, is now you're applying effort and energy to investigate and examine the teachings of the Buddha, reflect on them to verify whether they're true or false, and then you're practicing his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life to be able to transform your mind. So you're going to need to learn things like the 3 universal truths, the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the 5 precepts, the Brahma Viharas, the natural law of Karma, the 10 fetters, the 7 factors of enlightenment. You're going to need to know extensive meditation training. This is just to get started. And what you would like to be able to do is learn with the original words of the Buddha. Because all of these teachings, if you went out on the internet and you searched for the 4 noble truths, you're going to find countless versions of this. And it's not all based in the original words of the Buddha. Or if you did a search for the Eightfold Path, you're going to see countless versions of this that is not all based in the original words of the Buddha, and you can be very misled. So the resources that I share with you at no cost, it uses the original words of the Buddha. So you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. What the mind assumes is that everybody must be teaching with the words of the Buddha, especially in a Christian country like this, where Bibles are everywhere, right? You go into a hotel room, there's probably a Bible there. You go into a doctor's office, there might be a Bible there, right? Well, the teachings of the Buddha are in 45 volumes of books that are this thick. So you're not going to walk into a doctor's office or a hotel room and have 45 volumes of books sitting there waiting for you. So the average person doesn't actually study with the original words of the Buddha. So what we do is we make these available to you at no cost. So you're going to need to investigate and examine his teachings to arise this wisdom in your mind, to be able to understand true reality. But if you're not studying with his original teachings, you'll find it very difficult to do that. So that's why you would like to get access to his original teachings. So from our website and from all the other places that we share teachings, you'll see the original words of the Buddha. So you can download it, you can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions on Amazon, or back in Thailand, we have these books at our temple where you can get access to these. So you can get access to the original teachings of the Buddha, because that's what's going to help you to arise wisdom, to be able to see what did he teach and what he didn't teach, because oftentimes people are sharing significant misunderstandings. In fact, the Buddha predicted this during his lifetime. He talked about 500-year cycles that the world would go through. And we just ended the last 500-year cycle. And that last 500-year cycle, he said that everybody would be utterly confused about his teachings, that they wouldn't understand what did he teach. And he said we'd be at this low point of society where people would be arguing about his teachings. Well, if you go into any Facebook groups about Buddhism, you'll see plenty of arguing where people are arguing about what he actually taught and what he didn't teach. So you need to be able to get access to his original teachings, so you see what did he teach and what he didn't teach, and use those as reliable translations. So this is what's going to help you to arise wisdom, because when you have wisdom, your mind will become unshakable. How many of you guys grew up with the idea of Santa Claus? Did any of you guys grow up that way? Some of you, yeah, a good amount of you. Okay, so those of you guys that didn't grow up with Santa Claus, you understand the idea of Santa Claus, right? That there's this big man in a red suit who goes around once a year, and 24 hours he delivers presents to every single child in the world, right? You guys understand that, right? Well, when you grow up with that belief, you are really happy and excited when you wake up in the morning and you see your presents. You're so happy. Wow, look at these presents that I got. But at some point, you find out that Santa Claus doesn't exist. And I don't know about you, but I was crushed. At 8 years old, my sister came to me on Christmas morning. I was coming down the stairs and she said, "David, there's no such thing as Santa Claus." And I was like, "What? We don't have any presents?" She's like, No, we got presents, but I saw mom and dad eating the cookies and milk last night. It wasn't Santa Claus. And I was angry. I was frustrated. I was lied to all these years, right? So when you have belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it, right? And your mind can easily be shaken up when your beliefs are triggered and you realize your beliefs are untrue. But when you have wisdom, nobody can shake you off of that, because now you have wisdom that Santa Claus doesn't exist. And it doesn't matter how many people you see at the mall in red suits with gray beards and how many Christmas carols you hear on the radio. You know that's not Santa Claus, and nobody can ever convince you that it is. Your mind is unshakable. Well, that's what you need to be able to get to with all these teachings of the Buddha, that your mind is unshakable, that you've investigated them so well and that you've independently verified them and see the truth in the world around you, that your mind is unshakable. So, for example, the Four Noble Truths, where the Buddha teaches you that it's craving, desire, attachment that produces discontent feelings. You need to penetrate into that so deeply that you can see the truth with that so clearly that nobody can ever convince you that you are causing them to be angry. No matter what people say, you know with 100% certainty you are not causing those people to be angry. It's their own mind that's causing it. And they aren't causing you to be angry either. But when you're first getting started with this, it's really hard for your mind to peer through that because of the ignorance, because of the lack of wisdom, this unknowing of true reality. So you need to get to wisdom where you deeply know the truth and your mind is unshakable on these individual teachings. And you can't do that through belief, because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. Somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So by getting to wisdom, you learn, investigate, and examine teachings. You then reflect on them to verify if they're true or false, and then you practice them, integrating them into your life. And when you see they're working to improve the condition of your mind and your life, you'll know that these teachings are true. And that's what you need to get to with all of these teachings. So just to summarize what we've been talking about, and then I'll open up to any final questions that you guys have, is there's these 3 poisons or 3 unwholesome roots or 3 fires. These are motivating all your unskillful decisions, and it's producing all your unwholesome results in your day-to-day life. Whenever you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's producing unwholesome results for you. We also refer to this as greed, hatred, and delusion, or desire, ill will, and confusion. And all of these have antidotes or solutions or remedies. So generosity is the exact opposite of craving, because craving is mine, 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 mine. Give me what I want. I have this unquenchable thirst. I want it, I want it, I want it. Generosity is, let me share with you, right? I have these things, let me share with you. living open-handedly. It's complete opposite. Then there's that anger and hostility, the bitterness and harshness, where sometimes people hold on to resentment, thinking that they're getting back at the other person. But all you're really doing is holding on to a hot coal, trying to burn somebody else, right? Sometimes you break up in a relationship, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years in, you're still resentful, thinking you're getting back at the other person, but you're actually not. It's just harming your own mind. It's like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. So this anger and bitterness and hostility is just harming your own mind. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get rid of it and uproot it out of your mind with loving kindness, by practicing loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life. That's what's going to get rid of this anger and hostility. Then this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, the thing that's counteracting that and transforming that is wisdom. That's why you're not interested in believing any of these teachings. There's no belief in these teachings whatsoever. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You're an independent practitioner looking to cultivate wisdom. And it's a teacher like me that's a tour guide. We're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, and then you're cultivating the wisdom. And now you're able to make wiser and wiser decisions in your day-to-day life. And that's what's going to awaken the mind to this enlightened mental state. So you're eliminating and eradicating these three unwholesome roots, and you're cultivating the wholesome roots. So you're gradually bringing down craving, anger, and ignorance, and you're gradually increasing your generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And over time, that's what's going to fully transform your mind. And now you'll see more and more your relationships are improving, the condition of your mind's improving, and you're going to see more and more improvements in your day-to-day life. So any questions on these three poisons or three unwholesome roots? No questions? Okay, so it's a little bit after 11. It's about 10 minutes after 11. So why don't we take a 20-minute break? And when we come back at 11:30, I'm going to teach you the 5 precepts using the words of the Buddha. And it actually connects to what I just taught you. So enjoy your break, and I'll see you guys at 11:30. Okay? Thank you so much.